Following the Walmart shooting, local and state leaders reopened the conversation about gun laws, and 3 years later and following the Uvalde school shooting, the same conversations are being had once again.
And the question remains, what has been done to prevent tragedies like the one we saw in our own backyard from ever happening again? KTSM 9 News reporter Carla Draxler talked to those leaders who shared their thoughts about that. Good evening, Carla.
Good evening, Andy and Natasha. Well, I got to sit down and talk to the former mayor, Dee Margo, and also the current county judge, Ricardo Samaniego. And they tell me, looking back to 2019, up until now, not much has changed regarding gun laws. And they feel that the state government has forgotten El Paso.
Have another third-year anniversary, and yet we're dealing with the fact that we're still very vulnerable, or even more vulnerable than we were before, because things haven't changed.
County Judge Ricardo Samaniego still remembering the promises made by state lawmakers to prevent future mass shootings. But what was the conversation about gun laws back in 2019?
What I remember is the hearing that we had in El Paso that was called by the committee, the legislative committees, and it was at UTEP.
But nothing came out of it. And we sort of waited, and then when we had Buffalo and then we had Uvalde, we started remembering that we hadn't addressed the situation at all.
For whatever reason, political or otherwise, we seemed to go the other direction this last year in the legislature.
After forming the Texas Safety Commission roundtables in 2019, Texas Governor Greg Abbott invited local and state lawmakers to talk about taking guns out of the wrong hands.
The reason for the committee is that they can't commit. They can recommend, they can do anything that you want, but legislation is different.
Last year, the state of Texas now allowing permitless carry.
I think we're worse off.
I support the Second Amendment, right to bear arms, but I was not in favor of the actions that our legislature took last year for constitutional carry.
Former Mayor Dee Margo receiving backlash for his support of gun restrictions. He believes background checks, red flag laws, and moving the age limit to buy weapons to 21 should be approached as a bipartisan matter.
With common sense, with pragmatism.
If you look at it rational, I don't think there's any question. When you look at it politically, then you've got all these different opinions of how it should be handled.
Back in June, the Senate passing a bipartisan gun restriction bill now signed into law, supporting funding of red flag laws and background checks for those under 21. But Judge Samaniego says he feels El Paso was forgotten by the state government.
It's very difficult for someone to go to August 3rd and feel that you're healing when a couple of months, within a month, we've had two other shootings that resemble, especially the one in Uvalde.
Still pretty emotional for me. I took it very personally. It was an attack on who we are. And I just think it's going to take time to heal.
And as the community waits for the shooter's trial and for change, despite the tragedy still remaining El Paso strong.
This shooting will not define us. I understand it'll be part of our history, but I want it relegated to a footnote. It will not define us.
And for this story, I did reach out to Governor Greg Abbott's office. However, I did not receive any response. But as far as the future goes, what the county judge tells me is that they have actually sent some regulations that they want to put in place, some resolutions, as a matter of fact, that they want to put in place, hoping to see some gun reform in the next legislative session. Now, also what he tells me is that he believes that these gun reforms need to be seen, action needs to be taken in order for the community to heal. Reporting live in East El Paso, I'm Carla Draxler. Back to you.
Carla.